see. Get rid of the Airbnb, Coinbase. Trying to get back into Coinbase so I can get started with NFTs. So, oh, you can't see anything. All you see is my new screensaver over here. Because I'm looking at the different screen. I'm looking at the little screen. Alrighty. So, this is what I drew this morning. This fit young lass, Tatateles 1411. Don't know who she is, but she friended me on Instagram. I looked at her account. She's got some nice pictures, so I used one as art reference. All right, here we go. Splash. So that'll be my Instagram post for tomorrow. Alrighty. I don't really plan to work on this anymore today. So let's put that away. And yeah, I know, I'm starting early. It's only 1:45. But I want to get the reading out of the way and then get to drawing. So, it's Monday. Let's check out Jim Kunstler's Monday post. What's up? What's up? Wait, in the shadows of Shadowland? Oh, that's today, yeah, 22nd. Alrighty. So it begins. Is there some kind of game going on in the USA? Have our public affairs ever looked so false and disordered? Is it ever more wondrous that Joe Biden somehow managed to win the Super Tuesday primary, let alone the national election? The country has gotten exactly what it saw all through the autumn of 2020, the empty shell of a broken politician. Back in October, old Joe, hiding in the basement, was played as a bad joke in a nervous zeitgeist. Nothing to see, according to the captive news media. Wasn't that exactly it, though? Nothing to see and nobody home. The essence of our now president, Joe Biden. How on earth did this happen? My own theory. It was the strange byproduct of the political establishment fumbling to cover up its crimes, an endeavor so transparently inept that the rest of the world goggles at us in nauseating incredulity, watching our leadership flounder, our institutions fail, our economy vaporize, and our power dissolve like some dying blob in an epic horror movie. Even our most devoted adversary, North Korea, marvels out loud at the spectacle of American collapse. They joke about it, but it must make them awfully uncomfortable to realize that the USA runs under a shadow government and runs so ineptly. Who or what is this shadow government? I'd say it amounts to a small group around former President Obama and former Attorney General Eric Holder, plus a coterie of intel community figures led by John Brennan, all awkwardly funneling instructions through Susan Rice to the hacks in the White House, who form a flimsy cocoon around the barely pulsating organism within, Mr. Biden. I will boldly suggest that this cabal is actually controlling the executive branch of the government, and doing it with stunning incompetence. If it sounds like a conspiracy, that's probably because it is a conspiracy. Jim, who used to be allergic to conspiracy theories. But you know what? I mean, if you see something, say something, right? I think that may be the first time I've ever used that hackneyed phrase. What were those crimes of theirs? Mainly the actions they took the past 4 years to cover up their intense, sedulous, ongoing corruption of previous years, especially all the channels of money grubbing that ran from Wall Street and K Street through the halls of Congress and secondarily through their political agenda to destroy by any means necessary the opposition vested in a weak and ineffectual Republican Party, at odds with its own elected leader, Mr. Trump. So I'll stop here and just say, on Rising this morning, Crystal and Sauger, their first segment was talking about there was something that forced the incoming Biden administration White House staff and aides and counsel and whatnot to disclose how much money they've made, off their notoriety, off their public status. Most of the people in the Biden administration, unsurprisingly, are holdovers or returnees from the Obama administration. And the second they got, the second Obama was out of office and all of his staff were, in the job market, they all just started raking in big dollars for, bullshit jobs, for doing stuff that didn't need to be done, didn't really help anybody. It was just they're taking cash in exchange for, connection to power. And, Crystal and Sagar both stressed repeatedly, this is in no way unusual. This is in no way unique to the Biden administration. This is absolute business as usual. But for once, we get to see some actual numbers attached and people you've never heard of. People you have never, ever heard of. And if you were to hear their job descriptions, you couldn't say, what it was supposed, what their job duties might have been. Made millions of dollars just, because they were proximate to powerful figures. All right. The means turned out to be one dishonest exploit after another aimed at disabling and eliminating the uncontrollable Mr. Trump. Russiagate, the Flynn case, the Mueller investigation, Ukraine phone call gate, impeachment number 1, coronavirus hysteria, identity politics hysteria, including the 2020 summer riots, the social media companies' censorship and cancellation initiative, and finally, the engineered ballot fraud in the 2020 national election, with a replay in the Georgia senatorial special election of January 2021. How did you miss all this? Well, I didn't miss it. Although, I'm unconvinced on the... I won't say I'm unconvinced on the election fraud. I mean, I think every election has fraudulent aspects to it, but I don't think it was particularly significant this time around. Or let me just, that's easy to misconstrue. When I say I don't think it was particularly corrupt or rigged this time around, a lot of people take me to be saying I think it was legit. That's absolutely not what I said. I'm just expressing a lack of positive belief, not a belief in the opposite. I think it worked this way. John Brennan's CIA enlisted a desperately failing news media in an ideological campaign to propagandize and lie to the American public based on Brennan's own past ideological disposition as a self-declared communist. Yes, he actually said that about himself, though his Marxism and that of his allies was a mashup of foolish utopianisms used to cover a sheer wish to annihilate any opposition frustrating their will to power. I venture to suppose that Mr. Brennan continued to influence and even direct those agitprop operations long after he was removed as CIA director, even as he fought off accusations for his role in helping Hillary Clinton gin up Russiagate. Hillary's crimes in particular, especially her uranium ordeal and the Skolkovo scam, involved large networks of accomplices in the State Department and Intel, including the FBI when it was under Robert Mueller, and since they were conducted under the Obama administration, they implicated Mr. Obama too, and many around him. People of color and the gender muddled were useful idiots in the game to bamboozle the public, and were allowed to turn their own grievances into lucrative hustles. Thus, everything became a racist and sexist booby trap, used to nullify anybody seeing through this game, while garnering new social advantages and large sums of money for the aggrieved, especially the Black Lives Matter org. All of these cynical power games were, and still are, playing out against the very real collapse of America's economy and culture. That is the part of the story that nobody controls, or can even hope to control. The manufacturing part of the economy has been gone for 40 years, but coronavirus paranoia has been mobilized to destroy any remaining small business or service, leaving the shell of a commercial sector represented only by rapacious chain stores. The oil industry is on the ropes, confounded by the high costs of getting shale out of the ground and the shortage of investor money for an obviously profitless activity. I'm going to pause there and just say to Jim, or of Jim anyway, not that he's listening, you don't seem to be keeping up with the state of the art of fracking. Shale oil in the United States is the second cheapest to produce in the world, cheaper. The only thing that's cheaper is, the massive conventional reserves in Saudi Arabia. Guar is cheaper to pump than shale in the U.S., but shale in the U.S. beats everybody else in terms of cost efficiency now. They've been doing it for, they're well into their second decade of doing it. They've gotten really good at it. All that's really left are the financial rackets tied to the Federal Reserve and Wall Street, and they amount to the sheerest vapor given the delinking of capital formation from genuine productive activity. Last week's antics featured two dazzling failures of American diplomacy under the Obama-Biden shadow government. The president's stupid, what's that? Obloquies? I don't know that word. Let's look it up. First, how do you say it?
Obloquy.
Obloquy, okay. Abusive, detractive language or utterance. Calumny. I've had enough obloquy for one lifetime. The condition of disgrace suffered as a result of abuse or vilification. Ill repute. Obloquy. All right. Word for the day. Last week's antics featured two dazzling failures of American diplomacy under the Obama-Biden shadow government. The president's stupid obloquies against Vladimir Putin and Secretary of State Antony Blinken's feckless negotiation with China, in which China nullified our human rights complaints involving the Uyghurs on account of America's incessantly self-declared systemic racism. Coming up this week, Joe Biden's long-delayed premiere news conference, even though the questions were all pre-submitted and vetted, and the answers will be scrolling on a teleprompter. Wow. Mr. Biden will be working without a net. Yeah, it sounds like he's got multiple nets. His handlers must be cross-eyed with anxiety over what might happen. Pretty soon the game will be up. The election fraud story won't go away against all efforts to suppress it. The shadow government will get outed as the nation sinks deeper into economic and civil disorder, and some people will have to do something. All right. Oh, no. We don't look at email on the live stream or Twitter messages. I mean, I have no reason not to show you True Grit other than I just don't think that you'd be interested. All right, here's Tatateles 1411. That's the image I used. That'll go up tomorrow. All right, let's close that. Yeah, I've been thinking about taking Neil Gaiman's masterclass, but while masterclass is only $15 a month, you have to sign up for a year in advance. So fuck that. Big bag of money. Yeah, I'd like one, but that's not for creative visualization purposes. That is for visual reference for an upcoming comic strip. The future is solid. I follow this stock, QuantumScape. Here, let's have a look at Webull. So these guys make solid state batteries for electric cars, or that's the plan. I mean, I don't know of any electric cars that already use their product. All right, and this ugly thing here, this allows me to write on the... Nope. Screen. All right. But there's not really a convenient place to locate it. So how are they doing? QuantumScape, here they are. And they were way up here toward the end of last year. I want to say way up here, it was what, like around 120 or 132.73. And now they're down around 63. Something interesting. You can buy fractions of Bitcoin and fractions of shares of stock through the Cash App. But Cash App isn't a full service, broker. And in fact, I don't even think they buy your cash. I think it's more notional. Like you say, okay, I want to buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. And they just make a note of it. They say, okay, KMO's got $10 worth of Bitcoin. And then, the app just, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating, but then the app just, looks at the current Bitcoin price and says, okay, if KMO wanted to sell out today, we'd have to pay him, $72 or whatever. But I've noticed that because the selection of things that you can buy through, you know what? Let me open a, there we go. Let me open a chat window. Some of you might be sending messages at me and I'm not seeing them. Restream. Chat. Okay. So if you've posted something to the chat already, I have not seen it and will not see it. So I apologize, but post again. Feel free to cut and paste. But because there's only, a select curated, the stocks that you can buy through the Cash App, while you can buy fractions of stocks, it's a small curated selection of things that you can buy. So I've noticed that I have $125 invested in stocks, and I have a total gain of negative $13.77 as of this second. So I've lost money investing through the Cash App. But over here on Webull, where I have more opportunity, a wider selection, I can basically buy what I think, what I want. I'm generally up. So the Cash App, is for small players, people who don't know a lot about stock and often don't have enough money to buy even a single share. But the things that are on offer, I mean, I'm sure you could, pick select stocks and sell them at the right time and make money, but I haven't. Whereas I'm doing pretty well over here on Webull. Although that's mostly because of this ETF, the JETS ETF, which is supposed to track the health of the airline industry, when I can't understand why it is up so much. And this isn't recent. I mean, Ed, I mentioned this the other day, and Ed said, well, the stock market is looking 3 months ahead, but the JETS, I mean, let's look at it. Come on. So here we are in March, but, it's been going up for quite a while. I mean, here's where I bought it. Back in October. Anyway. I thought it was longer ago than that, but I guess not. Oh, it was longer ago. My acquisition of it was at $14.39, which would have been, well, will it give me the date? No. All right. I have not taken the time to learn how to use this app, obviously. So these things over here, you see a lot of red, but that's just today, and these are not things that I own. These are just things that I watch. These are the things I own. And AMC, which I bought just to foil the schemes of the hedge funders, is just about back up to where I bought it. I would very much like to see Dune in the theater. I'd like to see Godzilla vs. Kong in the theater, actually, but I don't see that happening. That opens at the end of this month, on the exact same day when I become eligible for a vaccine. Down to do a show about the article, by the way. I have some additional sources. Oh, I'm down. All right. Hey, post an additional source. I'll read it right now, right here on the stream. So anyway, you probably even haven't heard my request for you to post something yet, and you probably can't. Okay, send me an email. Or, hey, how about this? Post it in the, what's the name of that darn site? It's not Twitch, but it also has a purple icon. Discord. Right. Post it to the C Realm. It's Out of Our Heads Discord. You know what? I'll just start at the top. It's not purple, it's light blue. Anyway. Out of Our Heads. Seems like Ed and I are the only people who are utilizing this so far. Oh, no, that's not true. Benarubber also posted something here. Right there. Anyway. Get the desktop app. Someday. Someday I might. The Cislunar Iconosphere. Wow, that looks great, but Ed's always posting videos here. I can't play these videos on the stream. I would much prefer to see text articles here, print articles. Print, I guess, means on paper. So text. But anyway, if you can post it here, do. Otherwise, send it to my email. All right, what else to read? Glenn Greenwald's been on a tear recently. I never can remember how many N's. 2 N's in Glenn. All right, let's go to his Substack. Oh, the most recent free thing is something I've already read, it looks like. Yep. All right. Gosh, am I going to get to drawing sooner than I thought? Let's see. How about Dmitry Orlov? Anything new here? Nope. That's the same thing I read to you last week. What else? You know, I heard just a brief bit from a guy who calls himself HTML Mencken. Come on. Back. HTML. How do you spell Mencken? There it is. So I heard him on a preview of the upcoming episode of the What's Left podcast. So here's stuff that he's retweeting, lots of retweeting. Give me an actual original tweet, please, or a link to something I can read. Oh, retweeted AOC, what she's saying here. The infrastructure failures in Texas are quite literally what happens when you don't pursue a Green New Deal. I say, I'm not the biggest AOC fan. We probably support a few. We probably have some common ground to stand on, but I think the Green New Deal, at least the legislation that she sponsored under that name, was pretty vacuous. Didn't really spell much out. It's so fucking funny that this man was mayor of a town that's so poorly maintained its roads that Domino's had to step in and fix them, and now he's the Secretary of Transportation. Yeah, it's because he didn't want to be OMB director. Smelled like work. HTML Mencken. Here we go. Here's an original. Except this looks to be... I don't understand his formatting. Anyway. Greater than helps run political campaign where candidate drops out just before she has a chance to lose her home state. Greater than I won't be silenced. You literally lost homie? ? Pack it up. So I guess he's talking about the vice president. I don't understand what he's trying to say about her other than she couldn't win her own state in the primary. People are calling me a Tom Brady hater and acting like I'm invested in sports under my last tweet about Brady. Let me clarify. I think sports weebs are bigger degenerates than anime weebs. I have no comment. All right, this is fruitless. Did you enjoy the glorious Biden stumbling up the velvet steps to Air Force One last week? You know, I heard about it. I did not witness it. Didn't see the video. Don't care to seek it out. I mean, I've stumbled up steps. I'm not defending Joe Biden in any way. I think he's absolutely, as Jim Cunso described him, an empty husk, a shell. But yeah, he stumbled up the steps. All right. Hit me up with something to read or I'm going to draw. Not that that's a punishment or anything. That's actually what this live stream is supposed to be. Hey, let's close Photoshop because I don't plan to draw in it. And let's open Fresco. Oh, and I will open an email tab in a different browser. Edge. I updated Windows the other day, and when I say that makes it sound like it was an active, plan on my part. I clicked OK to a Windows needs to update message, and when it was all done, my old Ahsoka Tano desktop wallpaper was gone, and I couldn't find the file anywhere on my machine, so I got a new one. Ain't that pretty? All right, open Edge again, go to Gmail. Oh, I'm also in the process of recovering access to my Coinbase account. I really want to get into this non-fungible token stuff. It's supposed to be good for artists, and I have lots of artists following me on Instagram now who, mention that they're into NFT. The browser built by Google. I know what it is. Just call up Gmail. What the heck? Man. Okay. I can't show you my Gmail inbox. That's why I'm opening it not in Chrome, but in Edge. What a horrific waste of space. They have all of these collapsible menus, but the column on the left is it's like an inch and a half wide, and it could be a quarter of that. So I can't read, I can only read one or two words of the subject lines of any particular email. But I just opened it to see if first it sent anything, and he is not. So 1080 by 1080. That's our standard. What's that website I post to every frickin' day? Instagram. Damn. I am not ready to be 80 in this digital world. All right. How can we make this thing go away? I don't want it running anymore. We can just drag this over to the other screen. Getting it to cross the gap is a trick. There we go. Oh, I'm still seeing part of it. There. Dusty. All right. So the other day I looked up how to do perspective drawing. Oh, that was in Procreate, not not Fresco. Fresco. Maybe there's a way to do it, but I have no clue as to what it would be. Let's go with rakes. Hoping Mushroom Mike shows up in the chat. Since he and I talked about his hometown of Tasco last week, I've watched so many videos about the place. I feel like I've been there. Just before the start of the stream, I was watching a travel video about the town in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish anywhere near well enough to follow the video, but it's, more just an exercise in listening to the sounds, picking out individual words, and trying to figure out what the host was talking about, while seeing familiar images of Tasco on the screen. Ooh. TabMate does nothing, because this is not Clip Studio Paint. I can just put it down. Spatter mixed. Yeah, that's a pretty good description of what that is. Oh, I like it. Ben Ribber says, seems like the first presidential stair slip that almost became a fall, as far as I know, not much. Probably had those slippery dress or dance shoes on anyway. Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I really can make zero comment whatsoever. But I don't even remember where I heard about it. I've been watching the new Adam Curtis documentary, Can't Get You Out of My Head. And it's long, as all Adam Curtis documentaries are. I don't know how many episodes there are, but I think I'm 4 into it. And it's it's very rare that I watch anything on YouTube and I'm sitting there with a notebook open, taking copious notes and pausing, to write stuff down. But that's what I'm doing with this. And what to say about it? Watching an Adam Curtis documentary is a really bizarre experience because he doesn't tell you in advance. He doesn't tell you his conclusion in advance. He doesn't give you any. He doesn't, like the standard advice for being clear is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And Adam Curtis doesn't do that. He just starts at the beginning, and he goes for a while, and then he seems to change the subject, and then he goes for a while on seemingly a different tack, and then he comes back to it, and then like 3 episodes later, he comes back to this thing that he was talking about in the first episode, and eventually, over long periods of time, and there's long pauses too, right? The list of songs that he uses in this thing is very impressive. I'm thinking that he must be getting permission, just based on his cultural cachet and the desire of the artist to be associated with one of his documentaries. Because if the BBC were having to pay for all of the songs that he uses, that would be an expensive soundtrack. But Adam Curtis, he's just really in no hurry, seemingly, to tell you what he thinks. It's just historical detail, change the subject, different historical persona, follow them for a while. And then toward the end of each episode, he starts to reveal a part of his larger point, if he's got one. And so I was just earlier today, I haven't finished, the series. So I was watching a Zero Books analysis of it. And I'm like 3 minutes in, and then Doug, unlike Adam Curtis, jumps right to the end to say, what the whole point of the thing was. And I said, la, 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 put my fingers in my ears, scrambled for the remote to turn it off. So I'll go back and watch that after I've seen the whole thing. But lefties don't like him because he does seem to have a kind of a vague and generalized critique of the left, just saying they're ineffectual. They tend to be pretty hypocritical and vicious and inconsistent and opportunistic. And, I agree with all that. And I didn't need Adam Curtis to tell me that, but it's, that doesn't seem to be his main point. It seems to be a point that he touches on from time to time, but his larger point so far, I'm told it's sort of a surprise ending, and I'm told that unlike most of his videos, it's not just a thing bad video, but he actually might have a positive prescription at the end. which, I don't recall from any of his other videos or documentary series. Gosh, what to say about that? Let's look at the chat. Ben Rubber says, I'm listening to the Chris Farley Show book. It's shocking how extreme his addiction behavior was. Really enjoyable for some reason. So gifted. Yeah, I was kind of tuned out from Saturday Night Live during the Chris Farley years. In fact, I've been tuned out from Saturday Night Live with, a few exceptions like Black Jeopardy. Since, the days when Eddie Murphy was on. I remember the first appearance of, the new cast when all the familiar people like, Dan Aykroyd and, well, Jim Belushi was dead by then, but Chevy Chase, what's her name? Jane, you ignorant slut. Jane, what was Jane's last name? Jane Curtin. Anyway, those are the names that are synonymous with Saturday Night Live to me. And I remember when the new cast came on and Eddie Murphy introduced himself as, the new Garrett Morris. It's like, who today, who under the age of 35 knows who Garrett Morris is? Speaking of Eddie Murphy, I watched the Amazon Prime Coming to America, the sequel to Coming to America. Other than Wesley Snipes, who was amazing, it was a pretty weak offering, I have to say. And Eddie Murphy is old. That's the joke, that Eddie Murphy is old in this thing. Alrighty. So Chris Farley idolized Jim Belushi, huh? Jim Belushi, not John Belushi? I also got, I signed up for a free week of YouTube TV. So use YouTube as your DVR, which I haven't done at all. I did it because you could add on HBO Max for, $15 a month, but you still get the 1 week free preview of HBO Max. So I did that so I could watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is good. But, I watched it in 2 nights and then I had still most of a week to go. So I started watching Raised by Wolves, the Ridley Scott TV show. And I had seen the first episode months ago on YouTube. It was just free. And I didn't want to rewatch it, so I just started watching from the second episode, but I was kind of fuzzy on what happened in the first episode. So it's been an interesting sort of, putting the pieces together sort of experience watching this show, but I like it a lot. It's quite good. I plan to finish it and then cancel the whole deal before I get billed for it. And it's funny, I've been getting these emails from YouTube, welcoming me and telling me how to set up, my DVR and all this other stuff. And it's like, as if I'm not even going to log into that shit. I'm just here for not Justice League. That was the theatrical cut. I'm just here for Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder cut, to keep it short. And then I realized, but now I am going to have to pay for a month of this at the end of the month when Kong vs. Godzilla, or Godzilla vs. Kong comes out. Ooh, that's kind of neat. Too big, though. Too big. Gonna get some glorious fresh air back in a while. Ooh, the fat guy, probably John. Well, neither one of them were exactly fit, but yeah, I would imagine John Belushi would be his idol. Jim was kind of a pale carbon copy. Carbon copy, what dated language? When was the last time anybody saw a carbon copy of anything? These days, with digital reproduction, the copy is every bit as vivid as the original. I subscribe to YouTube Red to be free of advertisements. Have you watched those Michael Stevens Minefield show? Minefield sounds familiar. I don't watch it regularly. I may have seen it in the past. It was a YouTube Red special. Oh, well, I took a free offer of Red, a free trial of Red, and I watched some space show that they were doing. What was it called? Origins? Something like that. The one who died young and was also a heavy user. Yeah, that was John Belushi from Animal House. And Samurai Night Fever. Samurai Delicatessen. There was a Spider-Man comic that was set on the set of Saturday Night Live, and it starred all of those original cast. It starred Spider-Man, of course, and some villain, but also John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Bill Murray. Who else was in that original cast? Who am I forgetting? The Vsauce YouTube channel. Yes, I do. That's Michael Stevens. Okay, yep. I don't watch that regularly, but I do know who he is, and I do like his stuff. So it's interesting, this Raised by Wolves thing. It's about people trying to colonize another star system because a war on Earth has basically made Earth uninhabitable. And the factions fighting were this weird, Mithraic religion versus an atheistic faction. And there's no clear good guys. I kind of expected it to be a religion sucks sort of thing, but the atheists are awful too, so... And one of the main characters is an atheist masquerading as one of the religious types, and really being cynical and manipulative about it, and really selling hard his fake faith until it becomes real faith. What if we overlap these shapes? Then what happens? What if we put it on a new layer? Oh, what if? What if? All right, and then, instead of just whittling away at it, let's put in some filigree first. Smaller. Yeah. Iced coffee, any percentage, says you'd have to be a time traveler to watch Vsauce regularly with how infrequently he posts. I like that. I like infrequent posters. I'll tell you something I've been watching. And the reason I'm watching it is because YouTube, in conjunction with my Roku TV, has started to mess up to where, if there was going to be a video, if there was going to be commercials before a video, the Roku TV would just show me a blank screen and it would never advance past it. You know, it just couldn't play commercials for me. I know, what a tragedy, right? I can't watch commercials on YouTube, but it would never get to the video. But I discovered that if I just log out of my account, everything works. But it doesn't remember who I am and it doesn't know what to recommend to me. So it just started showing me, you know, stuff with more mainstream appeal. And there's a channel called the Try Channel, which is just Irish people try stuff. And it is hilarious. I've just been watching those, like, you know, 5 and 6 a day and laughing my ass off at them. They're just adorable and wonderful, and I'm just really digging it. And I never would have found out about it, you know, if I hadn't logged out of YouTube and had the Google algorithm start over, you know, trying to feel out my taste from scratch. I like when the good-evil dichotomy is gone in stories. Yeah, me too. I mean, that's my favorite film by Hayao Miyazaki, I think, for just that reason. I mean, there's 2 of them that really appeal to me in that respect. One is Princess Mononoke, and the other is Spirited Away. Everybody's got their reasons for doing what they do. Nobody is a clear bad guy. Nobody seems to be operating out of sheer malevolence. Everybody has something to lose. Everybody has something they're trying to protect. So, yeah. There was a time when my oldest son was very young when he wanted to watch Spirited Away every single day. And I was happy to have him play it over and over again. There's also a Finding Nemo period, which, you know, is a decent film, but not nearly as marvelous and magical as Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away. And there was a Jurassic Park 3 period, which is easily, you know, the lamest of the original Jurassic Park movies. And he called that one Dinosaur Airplane. So while I was not keen to have it playing all the time at the time, I now look back on it with nostalgia and fondness. I think this one's going to need a face in it. Hmm. Anybody else ready for this pandemic to be over? Is there anybody who's just really digging it? I know that there are people out there who just love it. Just love the excuse to never have to go out, never have to interact with people, never have to speak to anybody face to face. And you know, I used to think equal parts introvert and extrovert, kind of a switch hitter. You know, I could do either thing. But my introversion quota got met very early in the pandemic, and now my inner extrovert has, has been very, very frustrated. Very frustrated. All right. Now let's start carving away at it. So there's a place here in Bellows Falls called Our Place Drop-In Center, and they serve breakfast and lunch every day, Monday through Friday. And during the pandemic, you can't go in and sit down and eat, but they have a window. You just walk up and just tell them how many meals you want, and they'll give you, unfortunately, styrofoam containers with plastic utensils in them. But this doesn't happen to me very often. But my money ran out before the month did, and I walked over there today and got myself a free lunch. Carried it home, sat down, watched Rising, and ate it. It was like a ham and melted cheese sandwich on a white sandwich roll, like a sub. And there wasn't much ham, and the cheese was this very orange, like mild cheddar. But there was a little side of green beans with, potatoes and then one slot in the styrofoam takeaway container was just a minuscule portion of potato chips. Man, that's not an obscure word. I shouldn't have to struggle to come up with potato chips. But they didn't ask for any, proof of need. You just go in there, go up to the place now. You can't go in, and just say, "Yeah, one, please." And they would have given me more if I'd said, I don't know what the limit is, but I didn't need more than one. They don't do dinner, and they're not open on the weekends, but man. And it was a pretty nice day. It wasn't like I hadn't gone earlier, even though I could have used the help earlier because I didn't want to walk in the cold. Nope, that's not what I meant to do at all. Right click doesn't do anything apparently. Ungroup. All right, there we are. Oh, I see what's happening. we go. All right. Oh, that's enough of that playing around. All right. That super bright yellow is kind of bothering me. Let's modify it. Yeah, like that. So one interesting thing from the Adam Curtis documentary, he talks about the tension between collectivism and individualism, and obviously, you know, he deals with China and Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, and collectivism and suppression of the individual can clearly be, you know, brutal and ugly and put to very nasty purposes. But at the same time, if you make a population, you know, if you enshrine individualism to a ridiculous degree, as we have done here in the United States in recent years, and, you know, particularly if you enshrine self-expression and self-definition as the highest value, well, then you lose the cohesive advantages that come from, like, having a nation or having a shared history or, you know, a shared mythology or narrative that binds people into, you know, a single people. And so if you get too caught up in individualism, you lose the capacity for effective collective action. And that's what's happened in the West. And people have lost faith in politics, and even the politicians have lost faith in politics. And so what we get instead is, widespread cynicism and a belief that nothing is worth doing and nothing is achievable, and there's no reason for optimism or hope, or no reason to strive for for something better. And that cynicism, it further erodes the ability to achieve things via collective action, but it also, that cynicism also makes people easier to control, particularly when matched up with big data and surveillance capitalism. Because while people are not necessarily rational in what they choose, with enough data, they are predictable. And if you can predict what they're going to do, then you can manipulate them. And so our hyper individualistic culture, in some respects, makes us patsies. Makes us very easy to manipulate. And I thought about that. A couple things came to mind. One is, my own life. I mean, I was convinced of the value of self-expression very early in my life, to the point where I spent my whole life striving to, make my living outside the context of a day job, which I now do. But, a day job is a much easier thing to manage than just doing your own thing. You don't have to find your own motivation to get to work. Taxes are super simple for people with jobs. Health insurance is much easier for people with jobs. And yet, here I am at age almost 53 now, and it's really too late for me to, switch paths. So now, self-expression, which is something I used to want to do for its own sake, now it just is my day job. And I kind of feel about it the way I feel about a day job. Sometimes. What was the other thing that brought to mind, though? All right. Let's mash all this together. Masher. Actually, let's throw some texture on it. Collectivism, individualism, making people easier to predict and so control. What was the other part of that? It slipped out of my head now. This isn't what I was thinking of before, but the series does mention that one of the really only effective ways to resist the communist system was just through crime. And there was, a criminal subculture in the Soviet prisons that was pretty influential, and it extended outside the prisons. And so in the 1970s, Jews were an oppressed minority in the Soviet Union, and the United States and Israel negotiated with the Soviet Union to have them let the Jews go, so the Jews could go to Israel or to the United States. And my now ex-girlfriend, Olga, she came to the United States under that, at that time. And her lawyer called it the Jews for Grain program. But also, along with the Jews and the dissidents that the Soviets sent over to the United States, They also sent, a bunch of the high-ranking members of the criminal subculture from their own prisons, and they said that they were they were Jews when in fact they weren't. And those guys, when they got to the U.S., they landed in New York, and they settled in Brighton Beach, which is a neighborhood out by Coney Island. And it's funny. I remember one year, Olga and I were, we were utilizing the services of her accountant, and her accountant was Russian, and she lived out in Brighton Beach, and we went out there, to go to her office. So that was an amusing little coincidence with my life. And my experience of New York and Russian subcultures in New York. All right, now. Definitely had not planned to spend this long on this image. Let's just export it. I've been working on it too long to do a time lapse. Let's see. Maybe not. It's a long preview generation. I'm going to go refill my coffee. All right, I'm back. Let's see what this gives us. Oh, all right. No, I like it. Export. What do we call this? The Psychedelic Mermaid. How about that? How about Merdude? Save. Hey, Jim. When you say hi all, I think I'm all at the moment. Benarubber, iced coffee, any percentage, and first stopped in, said hello, and then moved on. And let's output to what? Merdude in Yeller. There are two others somewhere. All right, enough of this playing around. Or maybe not. Let's turn off this layer, this one. And that one. No, I like that one. Yeah, in fact, let's rearrange them. There we go. Just going to walk away from it. Supposedly, exactly. Supposedly. So I take it the Seattle waterfront has not liquefied. The what do you call that bit of suspended highway right by the waterfront? Viaduct? What's it called? You know, it runs between downtown and the waterfront and then dives into a tunnel up kind of near Seattle Center. What do you call that? Alaska Way, right. I remember reading somewhere when I lived there that a big earthquake could have a liquefying effect on the earth at that site, and that thing would just come. It wouldn't tumble down; it would just sink. Oh, it's gone. Oh, shows you how long it's been since I've lived in Seattle. Been ripped the frick down. All right. Well, that danger is no more. It's a done deal. Thing of the past. It was the same design as the Nimitz Freeway, the one that came down in San Francisco. Uh-huh. All right. So somebody was looking to avoid a repeat of that. Good. All right. Come on. Oh, did it crash? It crashed. It crashed. There's now a toll tunnel replacing it. Ah. Which no one voted for, of course. The tunnel project did come with money to fix the seawall, which was crumbling, which is good, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Being a former mariner down there and all. Fresco just crashed again. Pushed it to its limits, apparently. Loading, loading. There we go. Well, it seems that my image got saved before it got destroyed or before the program shut down. All right, so let's export. Export as a PNG, yes. Okay. We'll say blue, pink, purple. Export. All right. I think that qualifies. Any bus driving adventure stories from recent days? Jim, are you familiar with the British documentarian Adam Curtis? Psychedelic computer crashing mermaids, indeed. Yep. I have been watching his most recent documentary series, Can't Get You Out of My Head, I think it is. Hola. It's a living. Sounds like it's a pretty decent living, actually. Yes, on Adam Curtis. All right. So have you seen the latest? Can't Get You Out of My Head. Let's see. I've seen / heard two of his, which names escape at the moment. Well, his best known one, I think, is The Century of the Self. Yeah, sure. Let me start a Zoom call.
This meeting is being recorded.
Alrighty, where'd the chat go? There it is. Actually, I do believe I'm done with this. Let's put all the dialogue back in. Export it one last time. And anybody who wants to is welcome to join that call. Waiting for admission. Oh, I see. Let's see. Zoom. Admit. You have been admissionated.
Yes, thank you, dear sir.
Admissionized. Admissionaried.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh, all right. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. I've actually stepped away. I'll be right back.
It's going straight to the bathroom.
Coffee.
Well, the precursor.
Exactly. This is a small apartment. When I have to make a bathroom break from the live stream, I typically mute the stream.
You mute the microphone. The stream is all on.
I don't have a mic that I can mute. No, I would mute the stream.
Well, I was making a pun on stream.
Oh, I get you. Yeah. Wish that I could mute that.
Yeah, you don't want to get to that margarine bladder.
Ooh, no. Yes, picking right up from where we left off.
So I was listening to the latest Vault, I believe, on the way home, where you were on a bit of a rant.
Could be. Tends to be my MO
What?
these days.
Wait, I rant on my podcast? What?
Huh?
And the bad blood you were talking about between Joel Kotkin?
Yeah, and Kunstler.
And Kunstler. I after we talked, I was like, oh, that sounds like good stuff. Well, you sent me the Left Out podcast with Joel Kotkin, which I really liked as well.
Yeah.
And I, of course, as soon as I did that, I went straight to the library to see what all was available. I wanted to get the neoliberal book. Well, they didn't have the neoliberal book, but they had another book. Something about the home.
Did you get it?
Well, it's on order.
I see.
So let's see, Joel. Okay, all right. Kotkin. The Human City: Urbanism for the Rest of Us.
Oh yes. I haven't read it, but I've heard him mention it, and I've seen it in places.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be what either he responded to Jim Kunstler or Jim responded to that book. And just calling it Urbanism for the Rest of Us, I think I know which the order was.
What do you imagine?
I imagine Joel wrote this. It's 2016 book. I imagine he's lashing out against the new urbanists.
In the Coming of Neo-Feudalism book, Kotkin defends the suburbs, defends the fossil fuel industry. I mean, there's a lot there for Kunstler to hate.
Oh, and in 2005, he wrote a book called The City, A Global History.
Yeah.
Which is also in Jim's wheelhouse.
Yes.
So that would explain a little bit, I would imagine.
So for me with audiobooks, the first listen is just, it's sort of a formatting pass to decide, do I even care about this? Do I even want to, try to take it in? And if the answer is yes, then I'll listen to it again. And if I still don't think I'm getting it, then maybe I'll go and I'll drop $15 on Amazon and get the Kindle version so I can actually, quote from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thing is, if I listen to it, I won't remember later.
Exactly.
Because, you and I are both going through a crap load of audio material, just making the shows, and it just pushes everything out.
Yep.
So I have to sit and I have to read, and then I have to take notes, and I have to sit there and type up all the notes so that I can alphanumerically look for something later. Otherwise, it's gone.
I don't do that last step. Like, I've been watching the new Adam Curtis documentary, and I've been sitting there with the notebook in my lap, taking copious notes, stopping the videos, so I'm not missing anything as I'm writing. But I never will type them up. So just the act of writing them is just, an extra memory step. But
it is, yes. But, man, being able to alphanumerically is like, I think the name, like, Johnson was in that one book. Which one was it? Oh, there it is. Oh, that's why I misspelled it,
Yeah. I have a system for finding things like that. It's called Google.
Yeah. It turns out when you read books old enough, there may not be enough links.
I'm guilty of mostly reading new books, I will admit.
Yeah, my problem is if I do go out and buy the book, I feel no obligation to read it because there's no deadline.
Gotcha.
So I've got a book that's been sitting for a year, half read. Like, wow, I should probably do something about that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Why.
Except I just don't check stuff out from the library.
Yeah, this is why I'm not in academia.
There are many reasons not to be in academia, and I'm so glad that I'm not in academia. There was a time when I thought that would be a cool gig, but now, no. That would be a nightmare.
I don't know. I think it would be okay. I don't know. Are you talking about the cry bullies?
Yes.
Oh, that may be changing. I heard one of the really young kids pretty much said, "Oh, we don't even listen to millennials."
Yeah. I've heard that as well. So yeah, surely, yeah, the whole crybaby thing had a definite shelf life. But a lot of the people who came of age and formed out their worldview, under that regime, are now in charge of HR departments at big companies. So we're not free of them. Nor will we be.
Oh, no. I know at least 3 people who have lost their jobs with a joke.
Yep.
And 2 of them were pretty okay. That was in poor taste, but the target of the joke also laughed. So come on.
Yep. And the person who reported them was probably not in any way involved in the joke.
Yeah, exactly. They just stepped in and said no.
Said,
go away.
You said a bad word. I'm telling.
You referred to that man as gay. He is gay.
But you're not, so you're not allowed to say it.
I told him, hey, I'm going to put this in the system. He laughed. I thought that was permission.
Yeah. It's terrible that people lose their jobs, for bad jokes or, failed attempts at flirting or whatnot. But it's worse that lots more people who don't lose their jobs self-censor and are just afraid to talk. And, they just smile and nod, or maybe not smile, just nod. But dare not open their mouths.
But then you're risking, hey, a nod is agreement.
That's right. Oh, people have been people have been fired for liking things on Facebook. Just click on that
that's why
like.
I'm not under my own name. I have probable deniability. Plausible deniability, I should say.
was going to say that's why I'm not on Facebook, but that would not be the truth. I did not depart voluntarily.
Getting kicked off works too.
Yeah.
So, Obliquy.
Oh, you're reading Jim Kunstler's thing, aren't you?
Yeah, I've never heard that one.
Yeah, I read that aloud at the beginning of the stream, and I stopped to look it up.
Oh, well then I'm at the beginning of the stream. What's going on with that?
Oh, you're listening to it?
Well, no, I just have the screen on. I'm just reading the screen.
I see.
So I wonder where I wonder where you are. Oh wow! Oh dear.
All right.
Let's get to where you are. There we go. Oh, you've got a purple head.
Purple dude, yeah. So if you listened to my most recent Vault podcast, then you heard me talking about the city of Tasco, Mexico.
I was listening to the Tasco. I was on there with. Who was talking to you with that?
Mushroom Mike.
What?
Mushroom Mike.
Yes.
Who grew up there.
Yes, but he was just so fascinating. I just shut up and listened.
Yeah. All right. I dig him. I'm glad he's around. What's happening? Why is it just getting darker and darker and darker? Anyway. Oh. Yeah.
So you're thinking about heading down there when things are opening up a little bit?
Well, I'm not eligible for a passport yet, but when I can leave the country, yes, that's where I'm looking to go. I mean, not I'm not saying I'm going to move to Tasco. I'm going to say I'm going to go tool around Mexico and see what appeals to me. But man, I've watched a lot of videos about that place, and it's nice looking.
I've heard friends talk about that. You go down there and you can buy silver all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not a big silver stacker.
No, but I mean, there are merchants everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
a lot of jewelry.
As Mushroom Mike was saying, now that the mine is closed, there's not so much silver flowing around, and a lot of people can't really afford to practice that silversmithing craft anymore.
Gosh, yeah, I heard him talking about the Canadian people that just wouldn't shore up the mine or do anything for the workers. It's like, no, we'll just close it.
Well,
that just sucks.
They'd come. I mean, I think the mining company left because of all the drug war violence, but they don't want to come back and reopen the mine because they don't want to pay some back taxes that they owe.
Yeah, you were doing the Google Earth thing as he was talking about it, was zooming in on watching all these. It looked pretty neat. I mean, they get up to I've been in the mountains in Puerto Vallarta or outside of Puerto Vallarta. It's like, yeah, it's kind of relaxed. It's kind of cool. I can see going into the mountains outside Tasco.
That's where
not getting shot.
Ed Yersh, Ed the Willing, he likes to go to places a little bit, near a little north, I think, of Puerto Vallarta. Sayulita is the place he really loves to go.
Okay.
And it looks nice, but I'm attracted to cheap or affordable. If we're not going to.
Well, Puerto Vallarta, I was there in 1980.
Oh, it's probably pretty affordable.
I'm not an expert. It was quite affordable. It was, yes. And it was a high school Spanish class expedition. And after we tooled around on the beach for a while, he decided, okay, time for you guys to meet some Mexicans. So we piled into a transit bus, which was really an old school bus from the U.S., and banged and bumped up this dirt road until we got to this little pueblo, little village, which was really neat and very not tourist. And of course, here we are in high school, and this guy's standing on a bridge, and we're out on the cantina, like listening to disco and drinking Cokes. And he just, get over here now. I was like, what? There was a flash flood.
Oh, wow.
We watched a flash flood come down the ravine, surround a cow, pick up a Volkswagen. And I'm, of course, going, wow, how often has this happened? And he's like, this has never happened in like 5 years or something like that. It's like, oh, this is cool.
Speaking of Volkswagens and Tasco, the streets, they have winding, very narrow streets So,
Mm-hmm.
like 3/4 of the taxis in the town are VW Beetles.
Oh, they still make them down there.
The ones I've seen in the videos look pretty old, but maybe they're just using the same designs they were using in the 60s.
Exactly. They bought the some company in Mexico bought the steel press to build the bodies
Oh, wow.
after VW decided, UW or VW decided to not make the Beetles like that anymore. I remember talking in 1980 with a guy who was giving us a ride, and we're in his Beetle, and he worked at a little machine shop that did parts for Beetles. It was still an industry back then. And I think Brazil, they bought the presses for some other cars in U.S. So there are places where you can find new old cars. It's kind of neat.
And then there's Cuba, where you can find like the 1950s originals still on the road.
Barely.
Yeah, barely, but because they can't get anything newer, and they certainly can't make their own from scratch.
No, they can't. Yeah. The stories of the what was that period in the 90s after the Soviet Union collapsed, and they were kind of on their own, and the average Cuban lost 40 pounds.
Yeah. Which, it's pretty impressive that the average Cuban had 40 pounds to lose.
Right.
Means they were pretty well fed
when
during the Soviet period. Yeah, but I forget what that Reconstruction period was called, but it was a lean time.
Yeah, it's mentioned in a Cuban zombie movie called Juan of the Dead, which is very similar to Shaun of the Dead, but just in Spanish.
There's a chapter about Cuba in not Mel Brooks, his son, Max Brooks, his book,
Mm-hmm.
World War Z. And it's a very political chapter, too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There was a movie made with that title, which had zero to do with the book.
I enjoyed the movie. I've listened to a few chapters that were read of the book, and I'm like, this one didn't really have much of a narrative going.
Well, it doesn't have
Just
a
kinda give it a
central.
pass.
It doesn't have a central character. It's a bunch of different stories from all over the world. So what the movie did was, to get that global feel, they had to come up with a contrivance to have one character be on multiple continents.
Right.
And that character is nowhere to be found in the book. I really love the book, though. And the book had a chapter, a series of chapters. One of the recurring situations that they kept coming back to was a soldier. So he's only in the U.S. based portions, but he was at the Battle of Yonkers, which is, it's not in the movie. But and we just see, the zombie war, like the actual military part of it from his point of view. On the ground in the U.S., but then there's another recurring set of characters who are, it's the sub-commander of a Chinese nuclear submarine who basically just takes the sub and goes rogue.
Mm.
Yeah. And even though there's a zombie apocalypse underway, the Chinese government, the rest of the Chinese military is still trying to kill that sub.
Mm.
But
the Chinese are trying to get the rogue.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, their own sub. But that sub also it becomes the sort of central piece in a flotilla of rafts and other craft which have just sort of conglomerated together on the ocean. That's one safe place where you can live during the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, that's similar to Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash as the fleet or whatever. What did they call that?
They called it the Raft, and there was an aircraft. I think it was the Nimitz, but yeah, it was an actual aircraft carrier.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right. I can't remember which one it was, but they mentioned the name of it, the aircraft carrier.
I'm thinking it was the Nimitz. I mean, that's like the only aircraft carrier that I can name, probably, so I recognized it. And the reason I can name it is because it was in that movie, The Final Countdown.
Aha.
Where the aircraft carrier goes back in time to just before the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
You ever saw that movie? It's from the 80s.
Is that the one where they used a magnetism to... No, that was the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's ever explained how they go back. It's just a natural phenomenon that occurs, and they... the commander of this aircraft carrier has the opportunity to intervene and stop the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And, I only saw it once in the 80s, so I don't remember all the machinations that, lead to the final decision to stand back and let it happen, which is what they do.
Well, they wouldn't have a Navy with aircraft carriers if they had done that.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was any talk of temporal paradox or anything like that, but they decided the thing to do was to just let it happen.
Well, and figure out how to get back to a time when a nuclear aircraft carrier doesn't have to hide from everyone.
Yeah, the neat thing about it being a nuclear aircraft carrier, though, is that it can be at sea for years. They'll have to go in and get food, but they can make their own fresh water, and they've got energy for years. So,
yeah, they can't fly their planes, but that's probably for the best.
Yeah, how could you make jet fuel in that instance?
Well, for the best meaning, you wouldn't have supersonic fighters, going over prop engine, freaking everybody out.
Well, in the movie, I mean, there is it takes them a while to come around to the decision to let the attack go ahead. They do. There are, battles, I'll put in quotes, or dogfights between modern jet aircraft and the Japanese Zeros. And of course, it's no contest at all. The Japanese don't know what hit them.
Mm-hmm. Final countdown. No, I think I missed that one.
That might not even be the name. Let me check. I mean, it's a film I haven't thought of in many years.
I love it when that happens. It's like, wow, I haven't thought about this in years, decades even.
Oh, wow, it's from 1980. The Final Countdown.
Yeah, 1980. I was watching different movies.
I saw it in the theater. It was just one of those, looked cool. I was 12. So
you were hooked. You were there.
The Final Countdown is a 1980 American alternate history science fiction war film about a modern nuclear-powered super aircraft carrier that travels through time to the day before the December 7th, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor. Produced by Peter Vincent Douglas and Lloyd Kaufman, the founder of Troma Entertainment. Wow, do you know Troma?
Oh, it's Troma.
Well, no, this wasn't a Troma film. It's
the
definitely
Toxic Avenger guys. Yes.
Yeah. Now, this was a high budget film with name brand stars. It's directed by Don Taylor. The film contains an ensemble cast starring Kirk Douglas, Martin Sheen, James Ferrantino, Catherine Ross, and Charles Durning.
Durning.
This was the final film by Don Taylor. Kaufman also served as an associate producer and had a minor acting role. The film, okay, let's get to the plot. In 1980, the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz, see, it made an impression, is departing Naval Station Pearl Harbor for naval exercises in the mid-Pacific Ocean. The ship takes on a civilian observer, Warren Lasky, Martin Sheen, a systems analyst for Tideman Industries, working as an efficiency expert for the U.S. Defense Department. On orders of his reclusive employer, Mr. Tideman, whose secretive major defense contractor company designed and built the nuclear-powered warship. Once at sea, the Nimitz encounters a mysterious, electrically charged storm-like vortex. While the ship passes through it, radar and other equipment become unresponsive, and everyone aboard falls into agony. Initially unsure what has happened to them, and having lost radio contact with the U.S. Pacific Fleet Command at Pearl Harbor, Captain Yellard, Kirk Douglas, commander of the aircraft carrier, fears that there's been a nuclear strike on Hawaii or the continental United States. He orders general quarters and launches an RF-8 Crusader reconnaissance aircraft. The aircraft returns after photographing Hawaii, but the images appear to date from 1941, showing an intact row of U.S. Pacific Fleet battleships moored on Battleship Row at Pearl Harbor, a site which has not existed for 4 decades at that time.
Wow.
When a surface contact is spotted on the radar, Yellen launches the Ready Alert with 2 Grumman F-14 Tomcat fighter jets from VF-84 to intercept. The patrol witnesses a civilian wooden yacht, Gatsby, being strafed and destroyed by 2 Imperial Japanese Navy Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters, killing 3 of the crew members. The F-14s are ordered to drive off the Zeros without firing, but when the Zeros inadvertently head toward the Nimitz, Yellen gives clearance to shoot them down. The Nimitz rescues survivors from the yacht. Prominent U.S. Senator Samuel Chapman, Charles Durning, his aide, Laurel Scott, Catherine Ross, her dog Charlie, and one of the 2 downed Zero pilots, Soon Tek O, which is not a Japanese name, so I think that's a Korean name.
Not even close.
Yeah. Commander Owens, James Ferrantino, an amateur historian, recognizes Chapman as a politician who could have been Franklin D. Roosevelt's running mate and his potential successor during his final re-election bid, had Chapman not disappeared shortly before the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941.
Now we have a plot point.
Yes. When the Grumman E-2 Hawkeye scouting aircraft discovers the Japanese Fleet Task Force further north in unpatrolled water, poised to launch its attack on Pearl Harbor, the Nimitz crew realize they have been transported back in time to the day before the attack. Yellen has to decide whether to destroy the Japanese fleet and alter the course of history, or to stand by and allow history to proceed as they know it. The American civilians and the Zero pilot are kept isolated, but while being questioned, the Japanese pilot obtains a knife, kills 2 Marine guards, and takes Laurel, Owens, and Lasky hostage. He threatens to kill them unless he is given access to a radio to warn the Japanese fleet about the Nimitz. Lasky tells Commander Owens to recite and describe the secret plans for the Japanese attack, and the Japanese pilot lowers his guard and is overcome and shot by Marines. Laurel and Owen develop an attraction for each other. Well, of course they do. Chapman is outraged that Yellen knows. Yes, Chapman is outraged that Yellen knows of the impending Japanese attack, but has not told anyone else, and demands to be taken to Pearl Harbor to warn the naval authorities. Yellen instead orders Owens to fly the civilians and sufficient supplies via helicopter to an isolated Hawaiian island, assuming they will eventually be rescued. When they arrive, Chapman realizes he has been tricked and tries to force the pilot to fly to Pearl Harbor, but instead causes an explosion that destroys the craft and kills everyone on board, which strand Laurel and Owens on the island. Nimitz launches a massive strike force against the incoming Japanese forces, but the time storm returns. After a futile attempt to outrun the storm, Yellen recalls the strike force, and the ship and its aircraft safely return to 1980, leaving the past relatively unchanged. Upon the return of the Nimitz to Pearl Harbor, the Pacific Fleet admirals board the ship to investigate the Nimitz's bizarre disappearance. Meanwhile, Lasky leaves the ship with Laurel's dog, Charlie, and encounters the mysterious Mr. Tideman face to face. Tideman is revealed to be a much older Owens, along with his wife, Laurel. Owens says to Lasky that they have a lot to talk about. So, what I did not remember, I just assumed that somebody made some philosophical decision to let history play out as it had, but no, they actually try to change history and they just can't because the storm comes back.
The storm comes back, yeah. They try to hide the Chapman guy, but somehow a passenger of a military aircraft is able to blow it up in the air.
Yeah, because the plot needed him to.
Okay. Got some plot armor on that, that's right.
Let's see. Ben Rubber says, Back to the Future flavored. Time travel was popular in the 80s, I guess. Terminator and whatnot. Yeah, and as you say, Back to the Future.
Well, Terminator was after 1980, so...
Yeah, that's true. Well, even in the 70s, we had, Time After Time. I think there was a...
yes.
Yeah.
With Malcolm McDowell, yes.
Yep. And I seem to recall a version of The Time Machine from the 70s.
Well, I remember the one from the 60s.
Oh, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of.
That's a good one, yeah.
And Time Rider. Did you ever see that?
Oh, that was the guy with the dirt bike.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was.
And before Terminator, of course, you got the James Cameron stole the plot from Harlan Ellison, the Warrior from the Night Gallery. Or no, I'm sorry, Outer Limits.
Ben Rubber says the first Terminator was in the 80s, I thought. Yeah, I think it's 84.
Yeah, that's right. I was out of high school.
Let's see. Oh, that is a franchise that it made so much money once upon a time they can't just let it die. But every time they squeeze it for some more money, it just gets crappier and crappier.
Yeah, I saw the latest one. It was pretty sad.
I saw the opening sequence where, the Terminator kills young John Connor. It's like, okay, so you've just rendered the entire plot of the previous movie pointless. Awesome. It's like Alien 3.
Good job, guys.
It's like, the last part of Aliens is Ripley going back to save Newt, and then Newt gets killed off screen between films. It's like, okay, so that was all for nothing. Excellent.
Well, remember Karen Black in Raiders of the Lost Ark? It's like, oh, they really set this up for a love story, and Raiders 2 came out, and nope, no Karen Black.
Well, Raiders 2 was a prequel. The one that takes place in India? Yeah, it was a prequel.
Yeah. It was also horrible.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty bad.
Which is more important. It was awful.
But, I mean, that explains
God.
the, what was the character's name? Marion? Why Marion wasn't around?
Right.
Because Indy was younger.
Okay. Yeah, instead it was Spielberg's girlfriend.
Oh. Yeah.
And the people that wrote Temple of Doom went on to do Howard the Duck.
Didn't George Lucas direct that?
No.
Ron Howard?
Howard the Duck? Purdue maybe have helped with production or something, but oh man, I can't believe I paid to see that.
Yeah.
That was awful. Oh.
Let's see. Howard the Duck. Where's the film? Yeah, Marvel and actually it was Marvel and Disney had a legal battle over Howard the Duck. Disney said that Howard the Duck looked too much like Donald Duck. And in the settlement to the suit, Marvel agreed to put pants on Howard the Duck.
Okay.
So I've got the Wikipedia entry for the Howard the Duck comic up right now, and you can see the cover. It's got
yep.
Looks like Red Sonja, or a woman in a metal bikini anyway, reclining behind him.
Yeah.
And look at his legs and his lower body. I mean, he does look like Donald Duck.
Oh yeah,
so
totally.
They redesigned him.
Yeah, I've got a book around here somewhere about some rogue comics in the 60s and 70s who just totally ripped off anything that was copyrighted. They were just underground guys.
Are you talking about the Air
There's
Pirates?
A couple of... Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
There was they got sued by Disney because the characters they were using were just clearly Minnie and Mickey Mouse, and they were, engaged in pornographic acts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, which is strange because, well, I guess that was before the Larry Flint decision in the Supreme Court.
And I'm sure you know that Congress has rewritten the copyright laws numerous times explicitly for the benefit of Disney to keep Mickey Mouse from entering the public domain.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they don't want to happen. Yeah, they have too many theme parks riding on this sucker.
All right.
I don't know if you ever watched, what was it? Birdman, Attorney at Law.
I think I've seen a few of those.
Oh, they are funny. They are really funny. Fred Flintstone is a mob boss.
I like Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That was a pretty fun use of very limited animated footage.
That was probably the same guys. I remember Stephen Colbert voiced a couple of the Arnie Birdman. I can't remember the guy's first name. Someone Birdman, Attorney at Law. But yeah, if you keep everything locked up under copyright, you can't have fun like that. You can't do things with Mickey that really should be done.
Yes. Oh, particularly at this point. I mean, Walt Disney is long dead. Long dead.
Yes.
And nobody who is making money off Mickey Mouse today can claim any credit for having created the character.
Exactly.
That is simply...
All they're doing is stomping on creators.
Yeah. Bender Rubber says, I was tickled to learn Reese's copyrighted the orange color for the packaging. Oh, Reese's. Reese's peanut butter cups.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Amazon has tried to claim a copyright on photographing objects against a white background.
Jesus. Oh, man. Sadly, some of those stick. I used to work for a copyright and trademark attorney and was kind of amazed at what people brought in.
There's a biannual convention in New York. It's not always in New York, but there's every other year a bunch of hackers get together for a gathering they called HOPE, which is Hackers on Planet Earth. And I went to one in New York City. Actually, it is always in New York City. It's always in the same place. But I attended a seminar on what the tricks that companies use to try to patent really, very common software applications. I mean, not even a full app, just, simple lines of code, they complicate it to the point of ridiculousness. And then they flood the patent office with, so many duplicate claims that, eventually some of them get approved just because, the patent office doesn't have the resources to actually look through all of these patent applications and discern what they mean when they're deliberately obscured.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're at the point now where companies like Microsoft and Apple and Google, they buy other companies just to get their software patents. They don't want any of their tools. They're collecting big libraries of, software that they own. So if somebody tries to sue them for infringement, they can say, oh, no. Look, we have a legal patent for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have lawyers who do nothing but, file baseless suits of copyright infringement for software. I'm of the opinion that software should not be copyrightable.
No, it should. Well, software is an interesting problem. The difference in the patent was copyright was words,
mm-hmm.
right? And a patent was something that had an effect in the real world. Well, with software, you get words that have an effect in the real world.
Or at least on your screen.
It has, we're talking hundreds of years of legal precedent flushed down the drain with the invention of this thing called the computer.
Yep.
And it's really tricky. So I can see why the situation exists. I can't support it because I agree. It's like you can't patent, you can't trademark that stuff and have anybody innovate anything.
Right.
If everything is already under patent. You can't even make something.
Like,
that's new.
I'm claiming a patent on the letter E. Jim, I noticed that you used the letter E in the show description for your last podcast, and I'm going to have to get a piece of that.
Exactly. Oh, man. I think it was This American Life did a pretty long and extended look into technology copyrights. And it's just lawyers all the way down. It's like the Turtles, but lawyers all the way down.
Yeah, you'd think
all
when
they do
you're
is sue
talking
each
about
other and then negotiate a settlement.
You'd think when they're talking about software that there would be programmers involved, but nope, it's all lawyers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Hey, Parker's here. He says, hey, Jim. Hey, hello, KMO. And nuclear aircraft carriers are comparatively cheap compared to nuclear power plants. I read a few years back that it's $2 billion for an aircraft carrier and $40 billion for a power plant. All right. I
had a buddy who had a high school job working on a civilian power plant, a nuclear power plant. And he told me just these guys are so hyper-focused, specialized in their field that they can probably not get jobs anywhere else. But he was doing this one thing that required meticulous, fix, and he couldn't get it. 2 days he was trying to work on this thing, and the plant guys, this old drunk guy, say, "Yeah, no, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way." He finally got it right, and the guy just looks at, "Now you're sucking some cock," and walks off. So that's become a catchphrase for me ever since. It's just, but no, you
definitely need to make sure you told the story though before you use that.
Oh, yeah, I don't use it just randomly all the time. So he was telling that none of the regulations on safety are ever repealed. Even though they go to a new system, they have to follow the old regs also.
Which results in a lot of redundant, pointless busy work, I'm guessing.
Expensive, pointless, redundant busy work.
The best kind.
Sure. Meanwhile, the Navy, friend of mine used to be a Marine in the Navy, and the Marines are stationed on nuclear carriers as a separate group that guard the important stuff like the guns and the nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy, his job was to stand by this big lever, and when the bell came from the pilot house to go fast, he cranked the lever down, and the boat took off. That was his job.
But the lever was actually, it was functional though. I mean, it did have something to do with the speed of the boat.
It dropped the what do you call it? You get the uranium rods in there, and you get the separation material that prevents the fission from heating up, and that lever raised the rods.
Okay, so it did do something.
Made a lot of steam.
Yeah, but it wasn't just like some guy was stationed there, cranking a lever that wasn't connected to anything simply because that was a job description, in the Marine Corps, and even though the technology had moved on, the structure had not.
No. He was the guy who made the boat go fast.
Okay.
And here's a mind blower. A guy was in ROTC back in college. He was stationed on nuclear aircraft carriers. He had 4 props in the Nimitz class. When the steam turbines go live from a standstill, the front of the shaft is a turn and a half different revolution than the prop.
Say that again.
There's so much torque on the shaft, and the shaft is so long that the head of the shaft is in one position, and the prop at the very end of the shaft is a turn and a half off. It'll catch up.
I'm having trouble visualizing that.
Well, if you have a long enough prop shaft,
mm-hmm.
and you have enough torque on it, there's going to be some twist.
Okay.
Well, they've engineered so that when it goes from full on, from nothing, you're in a standstill, that's the maximum torque, and it's a half a turn or a turn and a half, some ungodly amount that you wouldn't think about in the real world. You think, oh, shaft, it just kind of has a tiny bit of torque. No, this is a lot of torque. And I have seen the Nimitz, I think when we talked one time. Yeah, big twisty steel, says Parker. Exactly right. I watched the Nimitz go to full power from about 1,000 feet behind the boat. And I was amazed. It's about 5 stories to the flight deck. The rooster tail was over the flight deck.
What is the rooster tail?
The turbulence from the propellers.
Ah.
And
wow.
The rooster tail is where it spits out, but the turbulence is enough to send turbulence all the way up to the flight deck and beyond. And of course, in a night, that was a really bright night, and the bioluminescence was also incredible. So it was a glowing, turbulent behind the ship. It was pretty amazing. Static Warp says, torquing prop shafts. My middle school sense of humor is kicking in. Static Warp, I'm right with you, baby. When they drop the nukes and they make that shaft torque around, oh yeah, there's turbulence.
All right. So, Static Warp, are you at work or are you at home?
Yeah, let's get the middle school humor going.
Oh, middle school. That's a period of my life I don't care to revisit. Let's see.
Yeah, for me that was almost 100 pounds ago.
Yeah, I didn't have any notion that one should have a particular weight when I was in middle school. It just wasn't an issue.
Well, now your body complains because you have more than that.
Yes.
No, I was 145 and 6 foot.
Beanpole.
I was
kind of chubby in middle school. In elementary school, I played soccer, but I gave it up, I think, after 7th grade. And then got chunky.
Parker says if you drive around Virginia Beach, in some places you can turn a curve, and there's a giant wall of aircraft carrier looming.
You know, I used to see cruise ships at anchor down by Red Hook in New York City, and they look like a city block. I mean, they're like 10 stories tall and several blocks long. It just looks like a weirdly shaped skyscraper, or, not a skyscraper exactly, but a big ass, city building, blocks long.
They have them all over Seattle, and I think a lot of them have gone post Panamex, so they can't fit through the Panama Canal anymore.
A fair number of them have gone to Turkey to be disassembled and sold for scrap. Yes.
Turkey?
Yeah.
Not India?
I think these days Turkey is the place.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was back on the boats. We always talked about, the ship is bound for the beach. Meaning they would get a delivery close to Asia and then sail it to the beach in India. I don't know if you've read Bachelogupi's Shipbreakers.
I sure have.
Yeah.
Yep. Shipbreaker, The Drowned Cities, and Tool of War.
I love Tool of War. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Did you read The Water Knife?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With the completely unnecessary gratuitous sex scene?
After the woman had been, whipped with barbed wire or something.
I know. And then I was shocked to realize that except for the wind-up girl, his books are considered youth. You have to go to the kids section to find them. Yeah.
Oh, The Drowned Cities was horrific.
Yes, and it was in the kids section. Yes.
Yeah, it's young adult is what it's considered.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Kids.
Teens, yeah.
Static is working, but in a break, and middle school sucked, except for some of the jokes. Well, here's one for you, Static Warp. You mean the joke in your pants?
Ha 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 ha.
I remember that one from middle school.
Or that's what she said.
Yeah. Or, I saw them open for Soundgarden.
Oh, I'm sorry to say I never got to see Soundgarden.
I didn't either.
And we never will.
My favorite was the Screaming Trees, so that's just me.
I've heard the name, but I can't name a song by them.
Yeah, they had almost a breakaway hit, something called Butterfly. But, no, they're just one of the better the better Seattle bands in my opinion, and they were all friends. That's the funny part. Back when we were in college, every now and then you'd get a bunch of bands you've never heard of crashing your party.
All right. What's this dude going to be saying?
Why are my eyes funny?
That's one possibility. What else we got?
Parker thanks you, but he's sleep deprived and yawning a lot, so he's going to stay in text.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
In text, no one can hear you yawn.
Did you ever see the Sean Connery film Outland? It came out a couple years...
Oh, I'm thinking of Highlander. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It came out a couple years after Alien, and had one of the same producers as Alien, and it seems like it might take place in the same universe as Alien. It's based on the same theme of goddamn company didn't care about our lives, but it takes place on Io, the moon of Jupiter.
Oh, I did see that. Yes, yeah. Peter Hyams did it.
Yeah, I watched a a nostalgic review of that just recently, and made me want to go and watch it again. It looked like it probably holds up pretty well.
Okay. I do remember one of the women from Northern Exposure played the doctor.
The doctor was the only... I think she's the only female character with dialogue that isn't a hooker screaming.
Yes, that sounds right. People wondered why I badmouthed Peter Hyams. That's one of the reasons.
How do you spell his last name?
I think it's Hyams.
American film director. What else has he done? Let's see.
I think he did 2010.
Yep. Oh, and Time Cop. Speaking of time travel movies from the 80s.
Which one?
Time Cop.
Time Cop?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Oh,
he actually did a good movie with Sean Connery, The Presidio.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he went in. He wrote the screenplay for 2010. He directed it, and it sucked. And it's like after that, he had to do The Presidio just so that. Okay. Never mind. I'm reading the numbers now. Oh, no, that's right.
Yep. So he directed Capricorn 1. That's another one I saw in the theater.
Oh, that was a one. Yeah.
Outland.
The Star Chamber was really good.
I didn't see it,
that
but
one.
I remembered the TV commercials for it.
Mm-hmm.
2010, Amazing Stories, Running Scared, The Presidio, Narrow Margin. I don't recognize that one. Stay Tuned, Time Cop, Sudden Death, The Relic. I think I've seen
I'd recommend The Presidio and The Star Chamber.
The Relic. Show me
Suggestion for the word balloon, says Static Warp. Has the repair been completed on the prop shafts of the unilateral phase detractors?
All right. All right. Go away, IMDb. Has the repair been completed on the prop shafts of the unilateral phase detractors? You know, with this program, I would have to letter that by hand, and I don't know that that's all going to fit into that dialogue balloon. Parker says, I've enjoyed a couple of time loop movies recently. Which ones?
Time loop movies. So this is kind of the Groundhog Day genre.
All right. Jim, have you seen, can you see what's on screen here?
Bounce forward with a prepaid card. You're typing in Primer.
Yeah, 2004. Shane Carruth. Did you see that?
Yes.
This is a film that does not hold your hand or dumb anything down. It's like, there's a complicated story here, and we're not going to spoon feed it to you. You just have to figure it out.
Me likey.
Yeah.
I will put that on my list. Oh, I can recommend one, and you will not see what's going to come next. It's called, oh, jeez, I got to remember the name of it, don't I? What name was it? I'm going to have to look that up. Going to another window.
The Map of Tiny Perfect Things.
Branded.
Branded.
I can't even begin to give you a breakdown of what it's about without completely confusing everything.
2012?
Believe so. Parker says the movies are The Map of Tiny Perfect Things and Boss Level. Boss Level sounds cool.
Okay, you know, I saw trailers for Branded, And the trailers turned me off because I could tell that their corporate logos were fake. They were just made up for the film.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like,
but without seeing the movie, you don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have never seen a movie like it. It is without precedent.
All right. And it's included with Prime.
It's one of the reasons I started the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, then there's historical significance that compels me. Compels me, yes. All right. Brandon. Boss level. Let's see.
I would imagine that boss level is more action than romance. Yes. When people say they played the game, went to the boss level and got screwed, it wasn't with candles. Nope. It wasn't with flowers.
Frank Grillo. I like him. Oh, yeah, it is him. Okay. All right. Well, can't watch the trailer on the stream, but it's got Frank Grillo in it. I'm down. I'll watch it.
9% on Rotten Tomatoes for Branded. Yes. The thing about Branded is you cannot put it in any genre. It is one of the most genre. I thought it was going to be a documentary when I got it. It is so weird, but it is worth watching. If you like my show, it's worth watching.
Let's see. So, Jim, did you see the theatrical cut of Justice League?
No, I haven't seen the Justice Leagues. No. Oh,
well, it was.
I'm a Marvel snob, if you will.
Yeah, I only read Marvel comics when I was a kid, but I do like Zack Snyder. So, he made Justice League, and the film was like 90% done, and then his daughter died, and he lost it and had to, step away. So the studio brought in Joss Whedon, who had directed the first two Avengers films, and they took this dark, brooding, angry adult film that Zack Snyder had made, and the studio says to Joss Whedon, "Can you make it snappy and fun like those Marvel movies?"
Oh, Jesus.
So they brought the whole cast back, and Ben Affleck had gained a bunch of weight. So his weight is changing visibly through the course of the film. And, they took pieces of Zack Snyder's thing, and then they just tried to make it snappy and fun, and it just didn't work at all. So
I wonder why.
Yeah, for years, Zack Snyder, he wanted to actually put out his version, and the fans were saying, "Release the Snyder cut." And here we are, 5 years later? And with streaming services and a weird, corporate shenanigans and buyouts and stuff, suddenly the stars aligned and Zack Snyder had the opportunity to go back and finish his vision, and it's up on HBO Max now. It's 4 hours long.
Cool.
Yeah, but I watched it the other night.
Approve.
I watched it, and it's enjoyable, and it's amazing. You can see where they pulled stuff out of it, to make the snappy thing they put in the theaters back in 2017. But it's such a superior. I mean, to say that it's superior to the one they put out in the theaters is a ridiculous understatement.
Now, the Justice League have Wonder Woman?
Yeah, it's
okay, and Aquaman, and okay.
Yep, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Cyborg.
I watched the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, and I was so angered by it, I had to stop it.
The one where they were striving to prevent the end of World War I?
Or two, yeah,
no,
something
World
like
War I.
Oh, yes. It just on so many levels it angered me. What percent different would you say it is? Different. Oh, we're talking about percent different on Branded. Well, the problem is you have to make a reference to something else. I can think of no other movie like Branded. So, yeah, a percentage of what? I mean, I know of movies that were this long. Oh, on Justice League. Oh, what percentage? Oh, KMO, what percentage different would you say that the Justice League is from one version from Joss Whedon to Zack Snyder?
Well, I mean, Justice League is 2 hours long, and Zack Snyder's version is 4 hours long. Just for ease of distinguishing between the two, the Joss Whedon one, which was the theatrical cut, a lot of people call that the Justice League. So the Justice League, they brought all the actors back, and this is where Henry Cavill, or is it James Cavill, but the guy who plays Superman, he was playing. I
think it's James.
Yeah, James. He was also shooting one of the Mission Impossible movies at the same time, and he had a big fat mustache that the other studio said, "Oh yeah, you can go back and do reshoots, but you can't shave the mustache. We need you to have that mustache when you come back." So they digitally removed the mustache, and it looked terrible. I mean, it was smack dab in the middle of the uncanny valley. It looked ridiculous. And lots of fans with software did better versions of it, for zero money. But so they took Zack Snyder's original footage, they brought the actors back to have them shoot, snappy little, patter. And so you've got...
That's what she said.
Yeah, so you've got, just less than half of the original on screen with some extra snappy stuff, trying to change the tone of the thing. And then they color graded it differently to make it less dark. So I would say maybe 35% of what's in Zack Snyder, the Snyder Cut, was something that you would recognize from Justice League.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Zack Snyder didn't use any of the stuff, any of the pickups, any of the reshoots that they did for Justice League. So it is definitely not jokey. So audience score is only 24%. I mean, I love it when there's a Rotten Tomatoes, a big spread between, the critics and the audience, but it looks like everybody hated this one.
Well, again, if you have to accept it for what it is, and I haven't seen anything like it. It's almost hypnotic on how different it is.
All right.
It's got Old Testament prophecy, animation. They quote Lenin.
Wow.
It's all over the place. It really is. I mean, it's got, as you can see, it had the guy from the Seventh Seal, Max von Sydow.
Mm-hmm. So check this out. You've got all these green splats. Nothing more than a freshman's first term paper for Sociology 101. To borrow a hamburger chain's refrain, not loving it. The movie takes such surreal turns that its awfulness becomes a cinematic train wreck from which you can't avert your eyes. But then I
would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's a good description. You don't know, but if you accept it, it's a fun train wreck.
Gotcha. But there's one top critic who gives it the fresh tomato. This fantastical fable takes aim at marketing itself with an intriguing, if tendentious narrative.
Tendentious is a good word for it, yes.
All right.
Yeah, it turns out modern marketing was largely a creation of Vladimir Lenin, according to the movie.
Expressing or intending to promote a particular cause or point of view, especially a controversial one. All right. Branded is a confusing sci-fi thriller that takes itself much too seriously. Satire usually implies at least a little bit of humor, and Branded is mostly humorless. If it was ever actually trying to be funny, then it fails. If a satire should be pointed, then this movie is more on the dull side. Now, well, I'm sure it's a lot of fun to write a review of a movie that you hate.
Yeah, and look at Roger Ebert. I mean, it's easy to do a criticism, a review. It's really hard to write a movie.
Yeah.
He was Return to Valley of the Dolls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the worst movies ever made. I'm sorry, but really good reviewer.
All right.
And given its content, I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of. I mean, are we on a site that has advertising at all?
I would assume so.
Then there would be a market interest in them panning branded. I mean, the first Deborah Carr movie in the United States was a slam on radio advertising.
Say that again?
The first Deborah Carr movie, 1947, it's called The Hucksters.
Mm-hmm.
The entire movie is a slam on radio advertising and radio itself. And you cannot see that show ever on television because television became what radio was.
Did you ever see this film? Under the Silver Lake?
Silver Lake? No, I have not.
I didn't get through it. And not because I was hating it, just I was watching it and I needed to stop to do something and then I just never got back to it. But it's pretty bizarre. And it sort of implies that all of pop culture is manufactured, by a very small group of people for a very specific purpose.
Well, that sounds like branded.
And lots of fresh tomatoes over here on this one. Like a lot of good detective stories, Under the Silver Lake isn't entirely about the mechanics of its mystery so much as its detective's world. Even at 2 hours and 15 minutes, the film still zips along, and I was never anything less than entertained. Where local movie theaters trudge out mainstream products that are simply copycats of one another, it's refreshing to find something that continually keeps you guessing, never settling for the easy way out. Becoming entangled in this crazy spider's web of a conspiracy is more interesting than living a boring existence. Sam makes the most out of nothing. Under the Silver Lake is a spellbinding enigma of a film that is equally stimulating as it is mystifying. And here's somebody who didn't like it. Under the Silver Lake alternates between being incredibly compelling and frustratingly confused, and that'll work for some. So, as criticism goes, that's not too brutal. The fact that it's finally reached a theater near you is something of a miracle, and a movie with this much packed into it deserves to be seen on the big screen. Well, I'm afraid I never will. Anyway, I've seen one scene toward the end out of context. And,
okay.
Not sure if I should describe it or not, but basically the main character, I don't know what twists and turns he went through to get to this place, but he's in an expensive house, overlooking a cliffside or the ocean or something in Los Angeles. And there's an old guy at the piano and he's just playing and talking, and it's, the evil villain telling his master plan, and he's playing Smells Like Teen Spirit and claiming to have written it right there at that piano. For the purposes of inculcating a certain hopeless, detached, nihilistic mentality in young people because it makes them easier to control. Which, in fact, is it's a theme in the new Adam Curtis documentary.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I'm putting it on my movie list right now. Under the Silver Lake.
So, Jim, what did you think of that blog post about there being no new subcultures that involve both men and women? That the men have all retreated into their man caves and online, and they won't be seen out in the real world anymore, and it's just the girls coming up with the new fashions and the new scene.
I don't think I read it. Who's that?
Well, I read it aloud in the vault.
I've only halfway through the episode.
Huh. Well, it's the first half of the episode. Maybe you listened to the one before last.
I think I had. Yeah, remember, I don't download. I load. So
What do you mean?
I'm sure if I go to, well, I mean, it can be weeks sometimes between when I hear something and when I load it onto the machine.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So instead of, yeah, I play things in order of their release, and so I'm always behind the times. Some of the podcasts I'm behind, not in yours, but in others, I'm way behind.
Well, there are some podcasts that I haven't listened to in years, but I still think of myself as a fan. I just don't listen to many podcasts anymore. I listen to a lot of audio.
Okay, yeah. I'm listening to 392 right now. 393 is the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some that I'm hoping. Yeah, I hope Justin does well with his PhD, but I wouldn't mind him getting back to work. You know what I mean?
Justin. Richie?
Yeah, with the extra environmentalist.
Yeah, he's a producer on the Energy Transition Show. That's his full-time gig.
That's a full-time gig?
I think so. I think they're making money at it.
Well, I know they're making money at it, but it doesn't sound like that would be much of a full. I don't know. It doesn't sound like there's that much work.
Well, I do not expect any new extra environmentalist episodes.
No. I think Seth has moved on, and Justin's got his PhD by now, I think.
Yeah, that was.
But they had a good mix of people that they had on. You know, They would occasionally go way long.
Yep.
Have you ever listened to Hermetics?
No. Tell me more.
It's a philosophy podcast. John Michael Greer is on quite a bit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's a British dude, and he's got an interesting mix. I only sampled a few of them. You know, like going through the Critique of Pure Reason right now. I haven't read it since college.
You know, my degree's in philosophy, but I don't have much patience for it these days.
Oh no, I didn't get my degree there for a reason. I was like, wow, this is a lot of words to spell mental masturbation.
Well, I would say that's the continental side. I think the recent Anglo-American folks are actually dealing with, stuff. Stuff that makes sense and has an impact on the world.
Yeah, I heard your interview with your conversation with Doug Lane about continental versus rational.
Recent Anglo-American is what the rational stuff is called.
No, I would call it rational because I don't believe the continental stuff is rational at all.
Right. So if it's
constantly referencing a different, that's bullshit. Problematic in regards to Marx. Who cares? If you don't cite the exact part of Marx, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the big distinction between the two is at the beginning of any project in recent Anglo-American philosophy, you start off by defining your terms. When I say this word going forward, it will mean this and nothing but this. If I mean something else, I'll use a different word.
Yeah. Anyway.
So let's see. This page is not finished or something. What it claims is there is not there. Okay, the magical origins of the modern media with Mario Loza. Well, that sounds interesting. Critique of Pure Reason. Oh, no, I've read enough Kant. I never need to revisit Kant, ever. Mesmer, Gurdjieff, and Animal Magnetism with Claire. Yeah, that sounds interesting. The critique. No, not doing any Kant, and I'm not doing any Hegel. Let's see.
He did have a pretty good talk with a guy about Charbonneau. It's going to be down there.
That name doesn't mean anything to me. Who's Charbonneau?
It doesn't, because he didn't live in Paris. And it turns out if you didn't live in Paris, your career as a philosopher is going to be forgotten.
Yeah. In my philosophy grad student days, most of the authors that I was reading are still alive today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I can say that about any of the readers that I really got stuck on Hume. I thought he was about the best.
Well, yeah, I read The Dead Guys in my undergraduate years, but
Well, I never made it to graduate, so. I got my master's 100-ton inland.
100-ton inland?
That's my Coast Guard license.
Ah,
It's called a master's license.
I see. Gotcha.
And as my dad pointed out, well, there are fewer of those than there are in English or philosophy.
Yep. And ships. Doesn't matter what happens in terms of technology. There will be ships. They will be carrying stuff from place to place.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen.
Yeah, I had a realization the other day is that you were talking about
Daniel Jurgen?
the guy we were Joel Potkin.
Oh, right, Kotkin.
Joel Kotkin and the Sindel, the coming neoliberalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading
Neo-feudalism.
Now neo-feudalism. Thank you.
Neoliberalism is
reading,
here. It is totally here.
It is here, yes.
Yes.
But it's being defined in these books. The neoliberalism is being defined, and I started realizing it's like, think of the lockdown. Think of what you need. So you need food. You need heat. You need electricity. You need water. You need the toilet not to back up. Nothing that you need is offered by somebody in the clerisy.
Right.
Everything you need is offered by somebody who can turn a wrench, pick up a shovel, crimp a wire, do something useful, drive a bus, drive a truck, drive something. And the people that are mining the stuff to fuel that stuff, well, they are doing real work. Nothing else. Nothing else needs to be. And yet here we are in the neo-feudalism, and these people are sitting in the manor house.
Indeed. Let's see. I'm launching my podcast app on the phone, and I'm going to subscribe to this Hermetics.
I went there because John Michael Greer has been on his show like 7 times. Like, oh, let's listen to that. And I just kind of subscribe because, hey, I'm here. Static Warp actually says the Hermetics episode with Jacob Lund Fisker should be interesting. He wrote a book on retiring early. He's a millionaire who lives on $7,000 a year.
Wow.
Of course, if you're a millionaire, you can have a really nice house. $7,000 is just your bar bill.
Yeah, $7,000. I mean, if you have a really nice house, though, $7,000 won't pay your property taxes.
No, that's what the foundation does.
I see. I mean, $7,000 a year would not cover my rent in this one bedroom apartment in the middle of nowhere. Vermont.
Oh, that's why you need to read Henry George. You will be inspired to be angry all the time.
I don't need to be inspired to be angry all the time.
Okay,
I just
angry
need to
about
watch
something
Rising.
new.
Yeah, let's see.
You can be angry about something new.
All right. I'll mix up the sources of my anger. Excellent.
Exactly. You have to have a well-diversified anger portfolio.
So if I ever get bored about being angry at one thing, I just have a new justification at the ready.
I need to write that down. A well-balanced anger portfolio. I like that.
Hey, that might be the caption I was looking for.
Oh, he lives on $7,000 a year by not having a house at all?
Ah.
Dude, was he live in a car? I mean, I can see that, but
Lots of people do.
A digital nomad.
Oh yeah, well that's the lifestyle I've been looking for. And yeah, even for a digital nomad, I mean, plane tickets cost money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are some really nice like RVs and such that don't look like RVs, so you can park anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I did that living out of a van thing for a while, and you keep the car clean, you don't let it be an eyesore, and you can park pretty much anywhere.
All right, there we go.
My idea of what neoliberalism was off. I did not realize the liberalism was classical liberalism. Yeah, that says Parker. Oh, that's nice. A well-rounded anger portfolio.
All right.
Yeah, neoliberalism is a really weird creation. My theory is it was mostly born out of All in the Family. Because
I think
Archie
the
Bunker...
Powell movement had a big impact in delivering it.
No, that's the fun part. The Powell movement was delivering it for the right. The neoliberals were all Democrats.
As were the neocons.
Some of them were former Trotsky guys, the neocons, that became complete conservatives. This is a different group. This is your Gary Hart. These are people who rejected the traditional liberal who had a job in a union, and they rejected it. And I don't know why, but I think one of the reasons was Vietnam. A lot of people who had union jobs thought crushing the commies was fine, and they just wanted to maintain the Roosevelt era, New Deal, Great Society out of Johnson, keep that going. The young kids hated Vietnam and attached everything to Vietnam. Everybody who supports Vietnam had to be destroyed. So they came up with neoliberalism as a way of defunding their parents. They said, we need to innovate the economy. We need to build technology that does things that are now done by people in union jobs. We need to emphasize markets, because then my parents will have to go look for work and not have automatic guaranteed benefits through their union. So yeah, the neoconservatives, that's one group. The neoliberals are a very different group.
Well, I mean, today, neocons, almost all neocons are neoliberals by default as well. They might not share the causal, the historical roots, but they certainly share the generalized belief system of deregulate everything, transfer all the money to the top, fuck the working people. I mean, the neocons are really foreign policy focused. They're not.
Yes.
They're not, economic focused. They're not culture war, culture warriors. They're mostly, let's nail stuff down and have ourselves a stable empire, global empire.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, they would be happy to be Democrats because they don't give a shit about abortion or gay marriage or, any of the red tribe social issues. The neocons don't care about that stuff. So,
right.
If the Democrats are in power and they want to bomb stuff, then the neocons, they'll be happy to be Democrats.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the neoliberal philosophy it could be anger over their parents. And the other theory I have is they started realizing how expensive campaigns are going to be, and they realized that unions would not be able to fund that after the Powell movement guys started challenging them.
Mm-hmm.
The unions would have less money to spend on candidates, and they simply couldn't afford it if they tried. So they decided to gravitate toward open markets and finance as a way of funding future Democratic campaigns.
And, the folks at the HR departments in Silicon Valley are all woke, and the Jack Dorseys and Jeff Bezoses of the world will happily pay lip service to, wokeism because it keeps people from talking about class and wages and stuff. But
exactly.
Really, those Silicon Valley guys are hardcore libertarian.
Oh, yeah.
They
want
right
nothing
wing.
to do with... I mean, you've heard here in Seattle that Amazon warehouse workers are now trying to unionize.
Well, they just did unionize in, what was it, Georgia? or Alabama. Okay. I think it was where was it? They just had a successful unionizing movement that ended, with a vote to unionize. Where was that? It was in the South somewhere. There we are. Union vote.
Parker said that you read on Wikipedia
Alabama.
That made me think neoliberals were so market-focused that it made me think of libertarians, laissez-faire. Yes.
The biggest challenge to Amazon's workforce model coming 2,500 miles from Seattle.
Hush up, you.
If the workers in
Stop that.
Parker says Alabama.
Yep, it is. Seattle Group backs Amazon workers pushing to unionize in Alabama, and they did. They did vote to unionize, but...
Oh, the SDA. Okay.
The Amazon literally hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency to bust, union organizing.
Talk about tone deaf, guys. Come on.
They don't care about tone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Bezos could wake up a building with his laugh, so yeah.
I used to listen to that laugh all day long.
A buddy of mine used to. I told you about him years ago. He became the director of the German branch of Amazon. But when he started out, he used to travel with Bezos. He could literally hear him laugh 2 stories above him through the floors. Well,
they would have board meetings 2 rooms away from where I was sitting talking to customers on the phone. So I could hear him clearly. I'm sure the people I was talking to could hear him clearly. And as I'm scrolling through Twitter, here's a picture of Jeff Bezos laughing. Amazon's most egregious illegal action to bust the union organizing effort. Amazon.
Completely off topic, I popped in the videos of I'm going through Battlestar again because I love it so.
Good on you.
I forgot that the drug that helps you treat cancer and gives you visions was called Kamala.
I forgot about that too. Oh, that's very funny.
Parker read on Reddit that Amazon is putting AI surveillance with eye tracking in delivery vans to record instances of yawning and non-seatbelt wearing. Oh, Jesus.
Well, the seatbelt wearing, I'm not going to be too upset about that. But, yeah, they've got this this camera that watches the facial expressions of the drivers. And, yeah, if you yawn, your score gets dinged. And it's also supposedly reading, micro expressions, just, the little fraction of a second, facial tics that might reveal, incipient unionizing. It is.
Parker, I am happy to share that we, as part of my job, I drive buses with 9 cameras, I think we're up to, and many microphones. And we don't have one on the driver because we have a contract.
You have a union.
And we have said, no, we are not getting the cameras on the driver. Now, this has led to some interesting situations. Somebody was disciplined because a driver did something completely stupid, forced the bus to react, and the driver who behind the bus reacted verbally. He had nobody on board. Well, the person who did the stupid thing had the mirror and read the lips and complained, oh, he said something bad about me. And they went back and they listened to the audio and said, oh, you did say something bad. It's like, I didn't have anybody on board. Doesn't matter. Discipline. So I am now working on an article where I'm going to encourage my fellow drivers to practice moving their lips with curses and then in their best ventriloquist say, that was a very bad thing you did there.
That was an unsafe maneuver.
That was a very poor choice on your part. I have to phrase it because you don't want to have any words that require you to move your lips too much or put your lips together. It's just, when I heard that, it's like, really? We have a contract and they still do stuff like this? Oh, God. Eye tracking. Damn. That is just wrong.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I in Shoshana Zuboff's book, did you listen to that one?
I did, yeah.
Do you remember the work of Rosalind Picard, where she was working with a software to determine microexpressions and emotional state?
Not right offhand, no.
Yeah, she had developed it to help the severely autistic communicate, because they have a great deal, I guess. They can't read expression, so they don't know when what they say is being taken seriously or badly. And this would help them. But essentially, she was encouraged to spin off her company, and then they took it over because people who advertise really want to know if they are getting good deal for their advertising dollar by watching the faces of people who watch the videos. To determine which is somebody who's enjoying the video and which is the person who's angry at that, so they can determine better which ads will appeal. She was only in the company 3 years before she was forced out.
How and why companies will engineer your emotions. The booming sector of affective computing relies on collecting massive amounts of behavioral and emotional data.
And it goes to a website that has an advertisement.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. Well, I will put this in the Discord channel, so I will be reminded to read it aloud on a future stream.
The MIT Media Lab. The more I read about the MIT Media Lab, the more I really want to blow it up with explosives.
You know,
I'm not saying I will ever do that, but
you want to. The more you imagine yourself doing it, yes.
I fantasize about such a thing.
So when I was reading a bunch of books on, the general topic of surveillance capitalism and surveillance technology, one of them I read was Surveillance Valley by Yasha Levine.
I got 100 pages into that before I just turned it back, yeah.
Well, if you got 100 pages in, then you got what I think is the best part, which is just the very early history. Like, computing technology has been used for social control and surveillance from day one.
Yep.
That's always what it was
Norbert
for.
Wiener, and yes, absolutely. The developing the system so they could better massage things in Vietnam.
Or even before that. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the Norbert Wiener cybernetics stuff was fascinating. I think he was World War II.
Yep. Contemporary with Turing, Alan Turing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I never did see the movie with Cumberbatch playing Turing.
Oh, I love that movie.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's on a long
They did
list
a good
of films
job.
I intend to see.
They I think they rightfully skipped over the end, but
Oh, good. For those who don't know, after basically saving Britain from the Nazis by breaking the Nazi codes, Alan Turing, often thought to be the grandfather of modern computing, he was gay, and he was prosecuted by the British government and forced to take, for some reason, estrogen. They thought that forcing him to take estrogen would make him straight, but he committed suicide. Oh, Britain.
Yeah. Their attempt at chemical castration before that was a thing. We'll just give them the opposite of testosterone. It's like, well, what happens when you give gay men testosterone to make them more manly? Oh, they turn into very horny gay men.
Yeah, with big muscles.
Yeah, that should have been a clue that estrogen probably wasn't the way to go.
Alrighty. So, I had somebody contact me because I'd mentioned Yasha Levine's book, and they claimed to know him personally and claim that he's a bit of a crank and a bit of a psychological doomer. Like he can only see the bad side of anything.
Every touch of silver or every bit of silver has a touch of gray kind of guy.
Or worse.
Yeah. And reading his book does nothing to turn me away from that.
Yeah. But, I just have to say, this will explain it all. He's Russian.
Oh my God. The corruption of Malcolm Gladwell? What?
I heard a story just recently about how Malcolm Gladwell, there's a, Daniel Ellsberg of the Pentagon Papers fame. All of the clerisy who want to condemn Snowden and WikiLeaks dude. Right
Manning?
here. No. Well, Manning also, but the family. Lived in the Ecuadorian embassy for 2 years.
Snowden.
This is killing me.
I'm drawing a blank. Oh, are we talking about the guy from Sweden, played by Cumberbatch?
Was he?
Yeah,
he was charged with rape
guy?
in Sweden. He's Australian.
Okay, yeah, he was played by Cumberbatch.
Oh.
In a different movie.
This is killing me.
I know, he's the go-to guy. He's what Chelsea Manning gave the data to him.
Yeah, he's the WikiLeaks guy. That should bring it to mind. But it's not.
I'm sorry, what?
I said he's the WikiLeaks guy. I mean, just that name.
Yeah, I know.
Julian Assange.
And we're Assange. Yeah. Okay, we're both drawing a blank. Right. Okay.
So the clerisy is on a years-long crusade to, of course, crucify Assange and Snowden and Manning. And part of that narrative is to rehabilitate Pentagon Papers dude.
What?
Yeah.
The guy we just talked about.
Yes, whose name I said just a moment ago, and now it's not coming out again. Ellsberg.
Rewind.
Daniel Ellsberg. Yeah. So,
because he was against the Vietnam War and nobody else was.
Apparently. So, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a piece about Daniel Ellsberg for the New York Times, and it was the standard piece of Ellsberg is good, Manning, Assange, Snowden bad. It was Malcolm Gladwell did it. And Malcolm Gladwell made tons of just straight up factual errors, about the life of Daniel Ellsberg. And Daniel Ellsberg, who is the subject of this piece that was published in the Times, wrote to them a very polite letter saying, yeah, here's a few things, little things I'd like to correct. And by the way, here's my opinion on this whole thing. The Times didn't print it.
Oh.
They printed a story about him, but then when he wrote back, the subject of something they thought was fit to print, when he, provided his own input, they didn't print it. And Malcolm Gladwell was, he was the one with the quill in hand, penning that thing.
Well, he put his name on it, but it leads me to wonder who put him up to it.
Well, the editorial staff at the Times.
Yes. Yeah. Have to look into that one. Yeah, what is the difference between Daniel Ellsberg and Chelsea Manning and Julian Assange and Snowden? Nothing.
Well, the difference with Snowden is that Snowden ran away, whereas all the others, took their medicine. They did
Assange?
what they did. Oh no, I guess Assange. Yeah, he went and hid in the embassy, the Ecuadorian embassy.
Yeah.
So
absolutely
right. So that's one thing that they seize on. The people who want to rehabilitate Daniel Ellsberg in the service of condemning the modern whistleblowers.
But there's no difference.
Well, that's a difference they seize on.
I believe Ellsberg actually, did he express solidarity with those other guys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
There's that.
Right. Well, and that's an opinion that you cannot put in the New York Times, even if the subject of a recent Times story has written in to comment on the story.
Wow.
That opinion is not acceptable on the pages of the New York Times.
And luckily, because he's Daniel Ellsberg, he can put it on his own personal blog and gets at least a little bit of traction.
Well, he I think I saw him on Rising. So Crystal and Sagar interviewed him about it. In fact, say Rising, Daniel Ellsberg, 2 L's in Ellsberg, all right?
Yes.
And let's just throw in Gladwell as well. The crystal ball is Crystal with a K. And Sagar, I'm not going to try to spell Sagar. Come on. This will bring it up. Yeah, here we go. So I can't play it, but I will post the link.
Malcolm Gladwell's mysterious attack on Snowden? I'll have to...
I told you I went to that hacker conference.
Yes.
Daniel Ellsberg was there, physically, in person there, and he was on stage with Edward Snowden, who was there via teleconference. And he said back then, I was still in New York at the time, so it was before 2016, that he absolutely supported Snowden and thought that, there was no difference, no moral difference between what Ellsberg did back in the 70s and what Snowden did in, present times. This is a long campaign, to use Ellsberg to condemn Snowden.
Well, and it's like stuck on what's the difference? And why would the clerisy be after one and not the other? Or supportive of one and panning the other?
Well, they would want to crucify Ellsberg if he did what he did in the present. But since it's been decades and he's, vindicated in history, they can't go after, there's no reason to go after Ellsberg because he's not active as a whistleblower anymore. But basically it's just, it's the clerisy in support of the power structure saying, if somebody spills the beans about all the surveillance that's taking place on the American people, they have to be destroyed.
Okay, so you think that it might be the aspect of electronic communications regarding what's being done to the populace.
Well, that's what Snowden revealed.
Yes, and how that's a profit center that cannot be touched.
Exactly.
Yeah, because what was the Ledbetter law under Obama? Whistleblowers must be protected unless they're part of the government. Lily Ledbetter got completely let's what did she do? She blew the whistle on her employer, I believe General Motors, or maybe it was a tire factory, I can't remember which. And so they passed a law. It's like, no, you can't retaliate against employees when they blow the whistle. Oh, unless you work for the government.
President Obama signs the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Yeah, the Obama administration prosecuted more whistleblowers than any other, I think.
Yes. And doubled the people in detention from the Bush years.
Yep. So I got invited to a pancake breakfast at the home of a lesbian couple here in Hippie, Vermont a few months ago. And one of them just assumed that I would hate Trump and love Obama, and was completely floored when I disabused her of that notion.
It's very sad when people are expecting you to take, like you come in and people are watching a game, and you don't care about sports. Well, who do you like in this game? The off button? I don't know.
The guys in blue?
The referee. I really like the referee. I wish there was more of that.
Yeah. He's really killing it.
Yeah, I just... sorry, but... Everyone says, get off the fence. I'm like, I'm in another county.
Yeah.
You guys are yelling at each other across the fence. I'm in a different county. Shut up.
This isn't a fence. It's an ivory tower.
Well, not in my income, but anyway.
No, I'm certainly not in an ivy tower. I'm in a lonely, craggy lighthouse at the end of some misbegotten promontory with huge waves crashing against the rocks, and I'm observing your little squabble through a long-ass telescope.
And then forgetting to look through it.
All right. Why am I scrolling through Twitter? Get off of there. All right. I will read that later. Now, fortunately, I did draw this morning when I wasn't streaming. I did get some work done in the morning. I did this.
You need to socialize, man. I'm telling you.
Oh,
I hear you.
I know.
Today was the first day of new work for me. 3 times a year we pick new work, and I just decided I didn't want to get up at 4 a.m. anymore. So. Oh, that's what you did this morning. Okay, I approve.
So what's your new gig?
An hour shorter and an hour and a half later.
All right. But still driving a bus.
So, still driving a bus, yeah. I don't have any choices with that. I would have to make some serious lateral moves to get out of driving the bus.
Yeah. They don't let you drive the Batmobile, fly the blimp.
Well, yeah. Can't take many people in a Batmobile.
No, but you can take them places that no bus could ever go.
A cave, yeah. That low overhead clearance, that's a bitch.
Alrighty. Under the Silver Lake.
But I have to replace my pipes, my 80-year-old pipes, and I'm going to need to do that as opposed to come home and take a nap because I'm so exhausted. So I'm going to sleep in for a bit.
For half an hour? Is that really going to make a difference?
Hour and a half.
Oh, hour and a half. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Difference between 4 o'clock and 5:30 in the morning getting up.
That's big. Yeah, I agree.
That's huge.
Oh, my dumb brain. It absolutely refuses to sleep more than 6 hours anymore. I wake up
to the bus cave.
Yeah. I wake up and I'm still tired. I'm still sleepy. I would like to sleep more, but it's just not happening.
Parker, maybe tomorrow I'll get on the microphone if I have 1 or 2 passengers because it's COVID and not many people ride the bus. And I'll just go, and then I'll start driving.
What were the...
Bus man!
What were the preparatory things that Batman and Robin would say? Turbines to speed, something or another?
You mean the Adam West?
Yeah.
Burt Ward? I don't remember. I watch those religiously, and
Me too.
they fade. I have been known to spit a little Weird Al Yankovic on the bus. We're already packed in like sardines. Now we're stopping to pick up more, and then I'll give the Americans with Disabilities announcement about where we are.
Atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. Roger, move out. That was their patter.
Oh. I completely do not remember that. I just remembered looking at the little tiny Bic lighter flame coming out of the back of that car and going, there's no way that's providing any thrust. I knew enough about cars and how they work to realize Dad probably gets more thrust out of the exhaust.
Well, I was not so sophisticated when I was watching Batman. I was in the third grade at the oldest, possibly younger.
Oh, that's when I started. Absolutely. I hope a passenger is delighted. If so, I hope so too, because otherwise they'll complain and I'll get in trouble.
Yeah. Wow.
Actually, I pulled a joke on somebody, because I like to keep it light on the bus. And the person I pulled the joke on was very appreciative, really made his day. A third party complained. And here's my chief. Well, I'd like you to, stop with the jokes. I just went, no. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I pulled up one time, and there was this Asian woman standing with a step stool waiting for the bus. And I opened the door, and it says, "Don't you hate it when the doctor wants a stool sample?" And everybody starts laughing, and this poor woman, "Excuse me, English not good?" Oh, that was so sad. She would have laughed so hard had she known. Just every now and then you find yourself in the right place, and you've got the right thing to say, and nothing.
Yep. And your audience is completely unprepared to make sense of your brilliant wit.
Well, at least other people heard it.
Yeah. What do we got here?
Oh, the Batman had the cliffhangers. I would never catch the second part. Yeah. A lack of closure on your part, I think, yes. But what happened to the Joker?
So, on the show, I never appreciated it at the time, but what was it? Sid Caesar played the Joker, and he had a mustache that he refused to shave for the role, so they just put the white powder makeup over the mustache.
I remember that, yeah. I always wondered what was wrong with his face. Oh, and who played Egghead? Vincent Price.
Oh, really? Wow,
yes.
I don't remember that.
Excuse me. I need to talk about this. Don't get so excited. Yeah, they had some great actors. Burgess Meredith is the Penguin.
Oh yeah. So here's the Joker on screen here, and there's his mustache, painted white.
Oh man.
Oh, Cesar Romero, not Sid Caesar. Cesar Romero.
Les says, "Hey y'all." Hey Les.
Les, you've showed up very late. The stream ends in 1 minute. It has been all just random associations and looking stuff up online and talking about movies. I bet the atomic batteries can really torque a drive shaft.
That's what she said.
Double callback. Excellent. All right.
Excellent. That's right. Let me tell you, the splash from the rooster tail will get things wet.
Boy, that could be an alternate caption for that thing I drew earlier. I think it probably needs to be a woman saying that one, though.
Androgynous, that'll work.
Yeah, let's see. Splash from the rooster tail will really get things wet. There's the second quote of the day. All right. Alexa, what's the temperature?
Right now, it's 62 degrees Fahrenheit.
Thank you.
Anytime. Hope you've enjoyed your Monday.
So,
wow.
62 degrees Fahrenheit means I need to go outside.
Absolutely. But don't forget to slap Alexa for me, would you?
Oh, I'll just blow her a kiss for you.
All right. Good to talk to you.
Likewise.
Bye, all.
End meeting for all. All right, everybody. This is the end of the stream. The chat will endure for a few minutes, as Ed has discovered. I'll be back here tomorrow.